And of course you got to make sure the heat goes where you want it and that everything isn't going to fall apart. And yeah, it takes a few minutes. As you can see, I got a good fire going in there. And if you're out in an area where it's a little windy, you may have to shelter it from the wind so that it works properly. Just remember, you want the heat to go where you want it to go. You may have to make some minor adjustments. No, you just let the heat do its work. The idea is to catch your pine sap in the vessel. See, it's going to drizzle right off into it, just like that. You may need to use a stick or something to keep it from sliding off of there. But as it melts, you'll get pure, clean, clarified pine resin. Just like that. You see, the pine sap just melts right off into your vessel. Nice and clean. All the sticks and bugs and pine needles and everything stay on the shell, and the melted pine sap just runs right down into whatever you're catching it in, and you have pure clean pine resin. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to make some gum out of this, and I don't want any impurities in it. I want it to be as clean as it possibly can be. So this is how to do it. See? Nice, clean, pure pine resin with no junk in it. Yeah. This I'm going to add to a few things, and I'm going to make a chewing gum that you can chew up and swallow just like any other food. The recipe for making chewing gum out of pine sap is you got to have pine resin, beeswax, and cinnamon infused honey. And of course I don't have any cinnamon, but I do have a honeycomb, and I do have some beeswax, and I've got pine sap. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First thing I got to do is heat up my stone vessel over top of my oil lamp, just until it's hot enough to boil all the materials together. You don't want to get the rock red hot, but it does have to be hot enough to bring all the elements together. And when that heats up enough, we'll finish making some gum. First thing you put in there is you add your pine sap. And you take a piece of beeswax. This is commercial beeswax that I purchased. It's 100% pure honeybee wax, and you can eat it just to eat it by itself, but I like to add a little bit of pine sap and honey to it and make gum. You just put that in there and you let that melt. And then of course I got a honeycomb here, a piece of honeycomb that I'm gonna cut open and squeeze a little bit of honey into it once these things are melted. And you can just take any old twig or whatever to kind of stir it around. You gotta be really careful you don't dump it. You should use equal portions of pine sap and wax so that it stays soft. It won't be hard and crunchy. It'll stay soft and pliable, more like any other gum. Squeeze your honeycomb and squeeze the honey out of it. That's good and sweet. And you just let it cook together until it's all melted. Once it starts to bubble and boil, you take a pair of tongs or whatever and take it off the heat. As you can see, it's still really hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir it together. And make sure it's really well mixed together. It'll turn foamy once it gets all infused. And then you just let it cool off until it reaches a consistency like caramel. Then you can take it out of your vessel and pop it in your mouth and chew it. And that's all there is to it. Now that my gum's almost cooled off enough, you can see it's starting to get nice and thick. I'm going to scrape it into the shell. And see? Now the gum's nice and cool. See? Into the finger. Boy, that's good. No, it don't taste like pine sap. It tastes like honey. That's sweet and good. Yep, excellent refresher when you're out in the woods.